Hello, welcome back to our channel. Today we will discuss Myanmar junta suffers heavy losses in northern Sagaing fighting. In the latest news from northern Sagaing, the Myanmar military junta has endured significant losses during intense fighting with local resistance forces. Over the past week, at least 40 junta soldiers have been killed, and 29 others have either been captured or surrendered to the resistance. The clashes, particularly in the north of Sagaing, have seen fierce combat as the Kuki National Army Burma, KNAB, working in coordination with the People's Defense Force, PDF, steps up its operations against the junta. The KNAB, an ethnic armed group from the region, has been actively engaged in resistance efforts, using guerrilla warfare tactics such as ambushes and IED attacks to disrupt the military's operations. The resistance has inflicted significant damage on the junta's supply lines and troop movements, further straining the already overstretched military resources. The junta has been facing increasing difficulties in maintaining control over key areas as the opposition forces gain momentum. One of the most striking developments in the ongoing conflict is the release of a video showing detained junta soldiers, many of whom claimed that they were forcibly conscripted into the military. These soldiers' testimonies reveal the deepening crisis within the junta's ranks as it struggles to recruit and retain personnel for the fight. The video highlights the growing resistance within the military and its inability to maintain morale, with soldiers openly expressing their dissatisfaction with being forced to fight against their own people. Despite the gains made by the resistance, the human toll of the conflict continues to rise. Reports from local sources describe widespread destruction in civilian areas as the junta's forces engage in scorched earth tactics, burning villages and forcing civilians to flee. Entire communities in Sagaing, Magwe, and Chin regions have been displaced, with thousands seeking refuge in makeshift camps or in neighboring areas. The brutal violence has led to an ever-increasing humanitarian crisis, as displaced families struggle to survive amidst the ongoing conflict. Independent Investigative Mechanism for Myanmar, Bulletin Issue, 13 February 2025. Amidst the escalating violence, the United Nations Independent Investigative Mechanism for Myanmar, IIMM, has released its Bulletin Issue 13 in February 2025. The IIMM continues to document and investigate the grave human rights violations perpetrated by the Myanmar military junta, focusing on crimes committed since the 2021 coup and previous atrocities, particularly those affecting the Rohingya population and other ethnic minorities. In its latest report, the IIMM provides an update on its ongoing investigations into serious international crimes, including extrajudicial killings, forced displacement, torture, and the targeting of civilians by the military. The mechanism's work remains crucial in ensuring accountability for the junta's actions. The bulletin also highlights the IIM's visit to Bangladesh in early 2025, where it met with Rohingya refugees in Cox's Bazar to gather testimonies and additional evidence related to the military's genocidal actions in 2017. This ongoing investigation aims to build a strong case for future prosecution, with the goal of holding those responsible for these atrocities accountable in an international court. Additionally, the bulletin emphasizes the IIMM's focus on crimes committed against children in the ongoing conflict. Children, who have been subjected to forced recruitment, sexual violence, and other forms of abuse, continue to be among the most vulnerable victims of the military's brutal tactics. The IIMM has committed to ensuring that these crimes are properly documented and investigated as part of its broader mandate to support future legal action. Despite the challenges posed by the junta's lack of cooperation and the logistical difficulties in gathering evidence from conflict zones, the IIMM's efforts to hold the military accountable for its actions are vital. The mechanism continues to work tirelessly to ensure that justice is pursued, even as the conflict rages on and the military regime remains entrenched in power. The international community's response. The international community continues to express concern over the situation in Myanmar, though action against the junta remains limited. While some countries have imposed sanctions on Myanmar's military leadership and associated entities, many nations, particularly in Southeast Asia, have taken a more passive stance, prioritizing diplomatic engagement rather than pressing for more significant actions to end the violence. Meanwhile, human rights organizations and the United Nations have continued to call for greater accountability, particularly with regards to the military's war crimes and atrocities. Despite international pressure, the military junta shows little indication of backing down, instead doubling down on its repressive measures against the people of Myanmar. As the fighting in Sagaing and other regions intensifies, the resistance movement remains resolute, fueled by a desire for justice and an end to the brutal military rule. The resistance forces, including the KNAB and PDF, have shown their capacity to adapt and effectively challenge the junta, forcing the military to divert resources and personnel to combat these increasingly organized and motivated opposition groups. The ongoing conflict in Myanmar, particularly in Sagaing, continues to devastate local populations, but it also highlights the resilience of those who are fighting to overthrow the military regime. As resistance groups gain ground, both in terms of territory and support, the junta's ability to maintain control continues to weaken. However, with no sign of reconciliation or a political solution in sight, the path forward remains fraught with uncertainty. Conclusion: the battle for control of Myanmar is intensifying. With significant losses on both sides, the military junta has faced heavy casualties in northern Sagaing, where KNAB and PDF forces continue to inflict damage through well-coordinated guerrilla tactics. Meanwhile, the international community's efforts to hold the military accountable for its crimes are being led by the IIMM, which continues to gather evidence for future legal action. The international focus on Myanmar must remain sharp, as the junta's repression and the human cost of the ongoing conflict grow with each passing day. As the resistance movement gains strength, it is becoming increasingly evident that the junta's grip on power is weakening, but the path to peace remains elusive. The people of Myanmar continue to fight for freedom, justice, and accountability in the face of overwhelming odds. Sources: Irrawaddy, BNI Online, UN Human Rights Council. For the latest updates, don't forget to subscribe to Zelengam Media. Stay informed, stay connected.
We go there, only the guy in Myanmar. I know.
Hello. Oh, chị đâu đấy mà chị